This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Levine, for the warm introduction. I do enjoy all of the introductions I've ever received. This one has been the most recent. So I've spoken many times over this weekend, and they asked me to speak about motherhood. And you're wondering, what in the world does a guy know about motherhood? The answer is nothing. But I had the privilege of Shabbos to stay in the Morham family house. And they took us straight to the Tower of London to see the Queen's Jewels. Pretty impressive. The rich treasures of London are the Morham family. It's really a remarkable family. You know, this week we read about the house of Abraham and Sarah. I've never been there, but I think we got a little taste in the house of Josh and Danielle. We know that in the house of Abraham and Sarah, the challah was fresh from Shabbos to Shabbos. The challah there is fresh the whole week. I don't know if the Shabbos candles in the Morhaim family burn the entire week, but the light of that house shines certainly from Shabbos to Shabbos. And one thing I could say with great certainty, the Shechina rested on their home. So we're mevarich them that they should continue their avodas hakodesh in good health, gesund, ad bias. Okay, fasten your seatbelts. We're going to make a very bold statement this evening. The whole Torah that we have today, the entirety of the Torah, everything that we're in possession of, is because of one person and one person only. And amazingly, this individual that we're speaking about, that is responsible for what we have today, this person is not a Talmid Chacham. This person never attended yeshiva. This person that we are crediting the entirety of the Torah that we have today is not a man even. The Torah that we have today is all because of one woman. Let's explain what we're speaking about. There's once an ordinary man named Akiva. Akiva's advanced in life. He's an Am Haaretz. He's an ignoramus. He's a simple shepherd. We all know who we're speaking about. And he's pasturing the sheep of his master, Kalba Savua, a very wealthy, prestigious master in Yerushalayim. And this Akiva is minding his own business, and he's noticed by Kalba Savua's daughter. And she sees him, and she notices something about Akiva, that Akiva is different than the other shepherds. There's something about his personality. His countenance is illuminated with a nobility of intelligence. What a pity, she thought, that all of this latent talent would lay dormant in this Am Haaretz. She sees that Akiva has sterling character, that he's a diamond in the rough. So she talks to him, and she urges him, and she says, why don't you make something out of yourself? Why don't you become something? Now in those days, to know Torah, it was a mark of aristocracy. And Am Haaretz would be consumed with envy and hatred to the Talmidei Chachamim. In fact, Akiva hated Talmidei Chachamim with such a passion that he would say, give me one of those guys, I'm going to bite him like a donkey. That's how badly Rabbi Akiva hated Talmidei Chachamim. And all of a sudden, there's this woman, the daughter of his master, and she's urging him to go join their ranks and go to the yeshiva. And he said, what are you talking about? And finally, she promises him, if you join the yeshiva, I will marry you. And she said, I agree to marry you on condition that you go to the yeshiva and you learn for 12 years. Her father got word of this, and he was so disappointed in her that he literally disowned her. He took a vow, he took a neder, he would never give her a penny. So Akiva goes to yeshiva for 12 years, and he's growing and he's learning. And this idealistic woman remained in abject poverty and loneliness, living in a barn, sleeping under the horses. At the end of 12 years, he heads back to say hello to his wife, and he overhears the well-known conversation of some old man who turns to her and says, how long are you going to be such a fool? He forsook you for 12 years. You got to drop this. And she said, if you just listen to him for another 12 years, that would be even better. Rabbi Kiva hears this. He does not even go and say hello. He turns right around, heads back to the yeshiva for 12 more years. Now Rabbi Kiva returns a second time after 24 years, and he's accompanied by 24,000 Talmidim who would not forsake their Rebbe, an army of students, an army of Talmidei Chachamim. I learned in Yeshiva Chafetz Chaim in America, 400 Talmidim, one of the bigger yeshivas in America. Imagine Rabbi Kiva had 60 times the number of Talmidim, and they're all accompanying their Rebbe. And Rabbi Akiva enters the city and she comes out to greet him. Her illustrious husband. Students have no idea who she is. She tries to get word with him. They push her away. Rabbi Akiva says, no. Rabbi Akiva says, Shali v'shelachem shala. It's all hers. All of our Torah, it's all hers. But then there was the war in Beitar. Klal Yisrael was kemat destroyed. Gemara says all 24,000 Rabbi Akiva students died. Do you know how much Torah there was in the world at that point? 0. There was not even one Talmid Chacham. Says the Gemara in Yevamos, Rabbi Akiva then turned to 5 students. Rabbi Seinu Shabadarim, 5 students in the south. Reb Meir, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Reb Shimon, Rabbi Elazar. Says the Gemara, V'heim, heim, hamidu ha-Torah, they restored the Torah. All the Torah we have today, Bavli, Yushalmi, Tosefta, Sifra, Sifri, Mechilta, it's all because of the 5 students of Rabbi Akiva. If so, we could say with all certainty and with all honesty, decisively, all the Torah we have today is because of one woman, the wife of Rabbi Akiva. If not for Rachel, the Torah would not exist. B'siyata d'shmaya, I have the zchus to teach Torah. I teach adults, teach old men, teach middle-aged men, boys in yeshiva, sometimes even children. And in my humble experience, let me tell you what I find. That if you see a young boy really learning well in yeshiva, or a man really getting into learning, not always, but a pretty significant percent of the time, you know there's a mother or a wife who's behind them, encouraging them, assisting them, giving them the courage, giving them the love, giving them the support to be able to do it. I teach in a kollel for seniors. There's a guy there, I don't know whether he learned in his middle-age years, and all of a sudden he retired, he's becoming a Talmid Chacham. And I knew it was because of his wife. And I said, why are you coming to the kollel? He said, my wife kicked me out of the house. But it's not just that. It's in the right way, the right encouragement, with the right support. A few years ago we had the Siyam HaShas. Maybe in a few more years will be the next one. By the way, is Rabbi Levine here? No, so I don't know if the camera's working. If it doesn't work, we'll come back in an hour, we'll do it again. Siyam HaShas. You know how many people were at the Siyam HaShas in America in MetLife Stadium? I don't know, 70,000, and then in other venues the blue light is blinking. That's okay?
Yeah, because it's on your face.
In America, the blue light blinking is not a good sign. It's good? Okay. Hope for the best. Yeah? Okay. To say that over 100,000 people participated in the Siyam HaShas is an understatement. What's the Siyam HaShas? Every day, men around the world, they all come together and they learn 1 page a day. So let's investigate. When did Siyam HaShas begin? When did Daf Yomi begin? Did it start in Bavel with the advent of Talmud Bavli? Did it start in the times of Rashi, in the times of Tosfos, in the times of the Vilna Gaon? Like, who started the Daf Yomi? Daf Yomi is an infant of an idea. A few days ago was the yahrzeit of Rameir Shapiro, Zechat Levracha. He's a man who lived in the 20th century. There are people alive today who remember Rav Meir Shapiro. One man had one idea that let's get the whole world together, let's get Klal Yisrael together, and all the men will learn the same page every day. Look what one man did. Look what one man accomplished. You know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of learning have become a reality because of the idea of one man? A man who lived in our times. There are people who remember him. But it's a mistake to think that it's all Rav Meir Shapiro. You know who gave Rav Meir Shapiro the idea of Daf Yomi? You know where it came from? When Meir Shapiro was 9 years old, his parents hired a malamed, a teacher, a tutor, to come learn with little Meir Shapiro. And the malamed was supposed to come immediately after Pesach, and somehow there was a miscommunication, and the day after Pesach, when the malamed was supposed to start, the malamed didn't show. He started the next day. So for one day, Meir Shapiro didn't learn. That night he walks into the kitchen and he sees his mother crying. He sees Mrs. Shapiro crying. And he turns to his mother, he said, Mama, for was weinst du? Mommy, why are you crying? And she said, Meirl, you wasted a day. Versteht nicht. Was meint dat Tag lernen? You don't know what it means, a day of learning. Rav Meir Shapiro was the father of the Daf Yomi. But his mother was the mother of the Daf Yomi. From one comment that one mother made to her child 100 years ago, thousands and thousands and thousands of Blat Gemara have been learned. Says Rav Moshe Feinstein in the newest edition of the Igros Moshe, when the Rebbeinu Shalom comes to present the Torah to Klal Yisrael, we all know the pasuk, Kosoymar lebeis Yaakov, v'saged levnei Yisrael. Imagine that's like a banner pasuk in Beis Yaakov. I was never there, but I imagine you've heard that before. Ask Rav Moshe Feinstein, why is Rebbeinu Shalom telling Moshe to come to the women first? What they're going to be Rosh Yeshiva, Rosh Koilel, they're going to be learning Shas and Poskim. What's Kosoymar lebeis Yaakov? Says Rav Moshe, it all starts with them. If they're on board, if they're supportive, then we have something going. Then we could get something done. If they're not on board, don't even bother. Kosoymar lebeis Yaakov, v'saged levnei Yisrael. Let me tell you a story. 20 years ago, Rav Ovadia Yosef. 20 years ago, Rav Ovadia's wife passed away, and there were Hespedim in America. And one of the Rabbanim told over the following story about the Shidduch. How was Rav Ovadia Yosef's Shidduch made? So if you ever saw pictures of Rav Ovadia as a young man, he was an exceptionally handsome young man. And one day a Talmud Chacham comes to his yeshiva, and the Talmud Chacham says, look, I have a very bright daughter, a Melumedes. She needs a Talmud Chacham. You have a Talmud Chacham for me, for my daughter? And the Rosh Yeshiva said, you want a Talmud Chacham? I have one boy, he's head and shoulders above the rest. Avad Yosef. I'm going to propose the idea to him. Tell your daughter, tomorrow night, get dressed up. Avad Yosef will be coming over. So the next night, 8 o'clock on the dot, Avad Yosef knocks on the door, and the father answers the door, and they start such a pleasant conversation. And this young man is such a pleasant conversationalist. And they're talking. And it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. The poor girl's still sitting in the other room. And the father looks at his watch. The night is over. You can't take her out now. Do me a favor. Take her out tomorrow night. He goes to the door. The daughter, what happened? What's wrong with you? He came? Yeah. So what happened? I'm so sorry we got into this conversation and it was so pleasant. He's a really great guy. Yeah, but does he care about the fact that he's going out with me and not with you? We got caught up, give him another chance. Okay, so to the next night, she gets dressed up again. And she tells him, so just don't talk to him. And again, he comes in, and they're talking. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Weiter, the same thing. The poor girl, the father comes in, she's sleeping on the table. But the father says, this is the right boy for you. She says, I don't think so. If he's not enough of a mensch to at least acknowledge the fact that I'm waiting for him, I'm not interested. The father says, no, you don't know what you're missing out on. He's asad legadlus. She said, no way. He's asad legad. With gadlus like that, I'm oichel zayin. So the father said, come on, give him a shot, give him a chance. So she said, look, don't say a word. You put out the cake, you put out the Diet Coke, and that's it. Don't say a word. So the next night, the third night, he walks into the house, and they both make him a zaynos, and the father's being like antisocial, and the father doesn't make a bracha achroina, and Avad Yosef makes a bracha achroina. Avad said, why didn't you make a bracha achroina? He said, I didn't need a b'chdei achayos pras. But the shita mechaber, and they get into a whole conversation, talking, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And he tells the boy, I love you, but I don't think this is going to work out. Let me ask my daughter. And the girl says, I don't want to look at him. He's not a mensch. Well, what is this? He knows I'm waiting for him. He knows that he's coming out to go out with me. Why didn't he even acknowledge my presence? Forget it. And he begged her, and he begged her, and he begged her, and he begged her. And she said, no, not interested. The next night, he knocks on the door again. And the father said, I'm really sorry. I've been begging her. A no is a no. She's not interested. She didn't get dressed up. She's not wearing her makeup. B'shum oifen, she will not go out with you. What's wrong? The father was embarrassed to say, she doesn't think you're a mensch. I understand the father. Avad Yosef said like this, give me 1 minute with her. That's all I need. So he walks into the room. A minute later, they both come out. Mazel tov, l'chaim. They're engaged. So the father asked him, "What did you say to her? How did you convince her?" And I tell you, when I heard this story, I broke out into tears. He told the shvar, you know what I told her? I told her, you give me olam hazeh, and I'll give you olam haba. That's what marriage is. Marriage is not romance. Romance is not real. It's a figment of the corrupt imagination of the media. Marriage is about sacrifice for the bottom line, where both spouses have their eye on olam haba. And if you have your eye on the goal and the destination, that is the ingredient for a successful marriage, a successful house, and successful children. In light of the following, in light of what we just mentioned, let's try to explain a little further. Shlomo HaMelech composed thousands of songs. The Gemara says Shlomo HaMelech composed a few thousand songs. The most important song Shlomo HaMelech composed was what? Shir HaShirim. And amazingly, Shir HaShirim almost did not make it. It was never canonized. To the point where the Mishnah says in Masechta Yadayim in Paragimel, Mishnah Hey, that Shir HaShirim, according to many Tanoim, does not have the same amount of Kedusha as the other books of Tanakh. It is not Mitameis HaYadayim, which means as follows. It's a technical term. It means that the Chachamim were afraid that since the Kisvei HaKodesh were Kadosh, if you would keep it next to Truma, what would happen is the mice would come, eat the Truma, and eat the scriptures, eat the Tanakh. So therefore, the Chachamim said that Kisvei HaKodesh make you Tameh, this way you won't keep it near Truma. But say the Tanaim, that's the other 23 books. But Shir HaShirim is not really Kadosh. Since it's not really Kadosh, it will not render anything Tameh. Comes Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva stood up in the Beis Medrash, and Rabbi Akiva declared, Chas v'shalom, lo nechlak adam Yisrael al Shir HaShirim. Nobody ever undermined the sanctity of Shir HaShirim. Ein kol ha'olam kulai kedai ki yom shenitem b'Shir HaShirim. The world is not worthy of the day Shir HaShirim was given. Shekol HaShirim kodesh, Shir HaShirim kodesh kadashim. All songs are holy. Az Yashir, Shiras Be'er. There are 10 songs in Tanakh. Shir HaShirim is the holiest of all songs. Herstamaisa, you hear what's going on in this Mishnah? Some Tanaim say Shir HaShirim is not even Kadosh. And Rabbi Akiva says Shir HaShirim is Kodesh Kadashim. What a polarized machlokes. That some Tanaim say Shir HaShirim is not even holy, should not be part of Tanakh. And Rabbi Akiva says it's the holiest of all the songs. How do we account for such a disparate machlokes? And even more, why was it, of all the Tanaim, that Rabbi Akiva is the only Tana who understood the value and the Kedusha of Shir HaShirim? Should I start over? So let's explain the following. What is Shir HaShirim? What is it a book about? So Shir HaShirim is a song in the form of a drama. And the two main personalities are a young woman and her chassan, her beloved. A chassan and a kala. The young woman, the kala, is Knesset Yisrael, Klal Yisrael. Who is her beloved? Who is the chassan? Ribbono shel Olam, God Himself. And Shir HaShirim is really a love song, describing the great love between the chassan, the Ribbono shel Olam, and the kala, Klal Yisrael. Avas Hashem leKlal Yisrael, and Avas Klal Yisrael Hashem. And indeed, any book that talks about the love between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's Kodesh Kadashim. However, many Tanoim were of the opinion that Avada and Avada, the love between Knesset Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is Kodesh Kadashim. But nevertheless, the mashal, the allegory, the parable that is used to describe this love, the mashal that this love is couched and cloaked in, the love between a husband and wife, that's a physical relationship, an earthly relationship that downgrades and secularizes the lofty concept of the love between Hashem and Klal Yisrael. And therefore, in their opinion, yes, the nimshal is Kodesh Kadashim, but the mashal is not really Kodesh. Take it out of the Torah. Comes the Heilige Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva said, no, you don't understand what marriage is. Rabbi Akiva understood marriage in its ideal form. That it's not just a physical relationship. The ava between husband and wife is the greatest catalyst and inspiration for growth in Torah, Yiras Shamayim and Midas Tovos, as Rabbi Akiva experienced firsthand. To teach the world that the love between a chassan and a kala and a husband and a wife is not profane and secular. It is Kodesh Kadashim. Because all the Torah we have today is the marriage of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva. Motherhood. It is very difficult for many women. Many women, they go to high school, they went to high school, through the years of seminary, they worked on tefillah, they connected for tefillah, and it was a real avodah shebelev. It's not like men, they chap a minyan, they run in, they run out. Yes kavana, no kavana, yes concentration, not concentration. For a woman, tefillah could be a real avodah shebelev. And then, Baruch Hashem, marriage comes, and children come. And then getting to shul could be a very big challenge. And sometimes women are not able to go to shul and not able to continue to go to shiurim. And sometimes it's emotionally very difficult to maintain the connection. Certainly, Yomim Noiraim come. It's a Rosh Hashanah, it's a Yom Kippur. So the man is sitting in shul, and he has a talis, zibur, and cup, and he's sitting with his kittel, and he's all day b'kedusha v'tahara. And the woman's at home, and she has the machzor, but very often she doesn't get to the machzor because she's reading Sesame Street. He's wrapped in the talis, he's connecting to the Shemayim, and she's teaching about Cookie Monster, changing diapers. It's a big nisayon. It's a big challenge. But what's the right way to look at it? We all know that we're in this world to do the Ratzon of Hashem. If you think about it clearly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the man to go to shul, wants the man to have kavanah for his tefillos, to connect, to be mispalel, to cry, to think about the meaning of the words, daven with intensity. Who knows if the man is really fulfilling the Ratzon of Hashem? Is he really davening properly? Is he really putting in the proper kavanah? Can the man walk out of shul and say, yes, I was mamale the Ratzon of Hashem? Very hard to know with certainty. But what does the Rebbeinu Shalom want from her? The Rebbeinu Shalom wants her to care for her children. When Rosh Hashanah is over, she knows with certainty she was mamale the Ratzon of Hashem. And I think, and I have a strong feeling, that the woman is doing a much better job fulfilling the Ratzon of Hashem than the man is doing. That's what the Gemara says in Brachos. Gedola havtacha lenashim yoser mehanashim. Greater is the promise given to the women for the men. And the Rishonim explain that this means that women are more likely to get olam haba than men are. Because the woman's heart and her nature lends itself to her tafkid more than the nature of a man lends itself to his tafkid. Let me tell you something very important, and it's very difficult to say, but it has to be said. We live in very challenging times, where the soft, feminine touch of a mother is challenged. It's being undermined. In the world, it's seen as a sign of weakness. The world wants to empower women. And the Orthodox world is being accused of looking down on women, shackling them, sending them back to the Dark Ages. And you even hear from some so-called Orthodox people, equal rights in terms of frumkeit, davening, minyanim, mitzvahs. And obviously in our circles we don't pay attention to this. But it's important to be able to address it because deep down it's a challenge that everybody faces. But you have to know with absolute conviction that whatever you're hearing from the outside world, it's the exact opposite. The secular world is not looking to liberate women, they're looking to shackle women. The desire for equality is meaning insult to the dignity of a woman. You know why they do this? You know why they're searching for equality? Because they're looking to undermine the single most noble occupation that exists in this world. Motherhood. The secular world is out to destroy motherhood. And by destroying motherhood, what they're doing is they're destroying the esteem and the identity of a woman, and now women are left reeling, searching. Who am I? What is my identity? But according to the Torah, it's just the opposite. The Torah takes motherhood and puts it on the highest pedestal. The Torah takes motherhood and says, Koi soimar lebeis Yaakov. The entire Torah stands on the generation of the righteous women. Gedola havtacha shenemra lenashim yoser me'anashim. Who created the Daf Yomi? You know what the Chafetz Chaim said? The Chafetz Chaim was presented once, and we'll speak about this in a little bit, with the siddur of his mother, the tear-drenched siddur of his mother. And the Chafetz Chaim said, this siddur is what made me. You know how many demois my mother shed so that I could be a Erlich Yid. You know, Chazal say, Shloisha Shutfim Ba'adam, there are three partners in a person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aviv v'Imai, the Rebbeinu Shalom, who gives us our neshama. A father, well, the father contributes, says the Gemara, the loiven. The loiven, what's the loiven? The loiven is the white, the bones. That means the technical ability. The father gives the child the technical ability. But says the Gemara, the mother gives the red, the dam, the heart, the emotion, the identity of the child. The mother creates the child. To the mother, the child is the entire universe. You ever see the difference between the way the mother gives a bath and the father gives the kids a bath? So the father takes the shampoo, plops it on the kid's head. Then, it's not coming up, so you take a bucket of water and you pour it on the kid's head. And the kid's crying. Well, why are you crying? It's no-tear shampoo. But the mother gently leans the kid's head back, puts the shampoo on, gently rinses it off. The father's smart enough to do it in a way that the mother will never ask him again. And even to a father, the kid realizes the kid is the entire world to the father. But the mother has the ability to make the kid feel that they are the center of the universe. When the kid goes out into the world, they'll realize they're not the center of the universe, although for some it takes a little bit longer. But in the mother's eyes, in the mother's home, the mother has the ability to make the child feel that it's the center of the universe. What does David HaMelech say? Ani avdecha ben amasecha. You know who I am? I am your servant, the son of your handmaid. David does not credit his father because David recognizes that you know who produced me, you know who's responsible for my greatness, my devekus, my tzidkus, my Torah, ani avdecha ben amasecha. But let's take it a little bit deeper. The Arizal reveals to us an incredible story. The Arizal says that at the end of Yishai's life, before David was born, Yishai started to question himself. Maybe really he's not a kosher Jew. Maybe Rus, his grandmother, who came from Moav, was not mutter to marry into the main body of the Jewish people. And therefore Yishai sent his wife away. And Yishai decided he's going to marry his maidservant. His maidservant would then have a child who would be an Eved. Yishai would free the Eved, and the child would be a kosher Jew. This is found in the Arizal, it's found in the Rishonim. The maidservant did not feel comfortable about this, and she told the wife of Yishai, and she switched places with Yishai's wife. Yishai thought it was the maidservant, and really it was his wife. A few months later, his wife is expecting. She's accused of being mizaneh. And Yishai decided not to tell anybody because it wouldn't be good for his children. When David was born, that child was David. They paskined he's a mamzer. They took David HaMelech and they threw him out the window to the dogs. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. David HaMelech says, Muzar hayisi le'echai. My brother said I'm a mamzer. It's a well-known story. If you never heard it before, I could show you the sources. David HaMelech was possibly the day he became the king of the Jewish people. And his whole life, his brothers, his family said, Mamzerata, Mamzerata. But says the Medrash, David's mother held him in her arms and rocked him and whispered in his ear, Tahar ata bani, kadosh merechem. You're pure, my son. You're holy from the womb. You're going to be great one day. Taharata. She gave him the confidence. She imbued him with the security that he will come close to Hashem. And every Jewish kid, boy and girl, needs the mother to whisper in their ear, Taharata, you're pure. Kadosh ata merechem. You're a heilige yingala. You're a heilige medula. You're going to be someone one day. You're going to be ani avdecha ben amasecha. I know someone today in America, he's a big askin. He's a famous activist in the Haredi world. As a kid, he was a terrible student. Terrible student. He had what is called, ADD, ADHD, and all those other things. He said that his mother would tell him, look, school's not your thing. It doesn't have to be your thing. You're not good in school, you're going to be great out of school. You're going to be great out of school. Don't pay attention to your teachers. Don't pay attention to your friends. It's not all about school. You're going to be great out of school. And you know what? He is great today out of school. And that is what David HaMelech says, Ani avdecha ben amasecha. And if you look throughout Sefer Melachim, all the kings of Malchus Beis David are traced by the lineage of their mother. They're nisyaches after their mother. Because the Malchei Beis David realized that the primary influence in their lives was the influence of their mother and the confidence that their mothers instilled in them. To the point where Chazal say that there was a unique custom among the Malchus Beis David. That in every throne room of the Malchus Beis David, sitting next to the throne of the Melech, was what is called Kisei Eim HaMalchus. All the Malchei Beis David put a throne next to them for their mother. Because they all realized that it was Ani Avdecha Ben Amasecha. That it's the mother that gives the blood, the identity, and the confidence. And then we too have an obligation in our own homes and in our own hearts and minds to set aside that figurative throne for our mothers who've given us the confidence and given us the inspiration to get where we need to get. What eitzos are there to have good children? Flying back to America very soon, so I can't tell you. But let me share with you the most important eitzah. If somebody kills b'shoigeg in the times of Chazal, when they were living in Eretz Yisrael, they would have to go to an Ari Miklat, a city of refuge. And they would remain in the city of refuge ad mois haKohen HaGadol, until the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol have to do with this, because this hooligan killed somebody. It's not even his fault. He's a good guy. He killed b'shoigeg. Why does he have to go into the Ari Miklat until the Kohen Gadol dies? And the Gemara basically says it's Kohen Gadol's fault. Why is it the Kohen Gadol's fault? Because the Kohen Gadol should have davened that under his auspices, nobody makes any mistakes and nobody does anything wrong. Fragt Reb Shlomo Wolbe, that the Kohen Gadol has to daven that nobody accidentally turns on a gun and shoots somebody by accident. It says in the Torah, Kohen Gadol has to daven that nobody kills b'shogeg. Why is it the Kohen Gadol's problem? Says Reb Wolbe, we learn from this Gemara that if you're in a position of authority and there are people under you that you're responsible for, responsibility requires that you daven for them, that they're successful and that they don't make a mistake. Says Reb Wolbe, if a Kohen Gadol has to daven for Klal Yisrael, then al achas kama v'kama, the most important obligation of a parent, of a father and a mother, is to daven for their children. That, says Reb Wolbe, yes, we'll all go to classes and we'll all hear various stratagems and advice and techniques how to deal with our children. If you have any good ones, please let me know. But the ultimate advice and the most important ingredient in successful children is tefillah, tefillah, tefillah. You can't stop davening. The Brisker Rav was once sitting around the table and a Rosh Hashiva walked in, and this Rosh Hashiva unfortunately lost a number of his children to some of the isms of the time. Communism. And the Brisker Rav was sitting around the table, and all of his boys were surrounding the table, speaking and learning with him. And the Rosh Yeshiva turned to the Brisker Rav, how do you do it? What did you do? What's your technique? Says the Brisker Rav, technique in raising children? There are no techniques in raising children. All there is are tears and tefillos. Says the Brisker Rav, never in my entire life did I ever daven a dry-eyed Shemona Esrei. Every Shemona Esrei I ever davened, I was yored a demise that my children should be God-fearing Jews. And that's why they are the way you see them today. The Brisker Rav said, most parents, when they rock their children to sleep at night, they sing ridiculous songs about people rolling down a hill and breaking their heads open. What's wrong with them? Says the Brisker Rav. When I rock my children to sleep, I'm mispalel that they grow up with your shamayim and midos tovos. When I was a Bachur learning in Eretz Yisrael, I visited a certain tzaddik named Rav Zuckerman, one of the last Talmidim of the Chavetz Chaim. Rav Zuckerman was once interviewed. He said, look, you know, your Rebbe, the Chavetz Chaim, was a great man, but there were a lot of great men alive in the times of the Chavetz Chaim. What set the Chavetz Chaim apart from the rest of the generation? In what way? Why was he on a higher madrega than the rest of the generation? And Rav Zuckerman thought and he said, you know why? It was his mother's tefillos. The prayers of the Chavetz Chaim's mother made the Chavetz Chaim. When do you daven? At what intervals? The whole day. While you're cooking, while you're cleaning, while you're taking your kids to school. There's no exact formula. It's a never-ending process. Hazoyrim bedima barina yiksayro. There are specific intervals, though, that are more mesugal for tefillah. Chavetz Chaim writes in the Mishnah Berurah, when you say in Birchas HaTorah, if you get a chance, the words V'harev na Hashem Elokeinu es teves rod v'finu v'fi amcha v'zov v'ni anachnu v'tzei atzoinu. When you say in Ahavarab or Avasoilam, B'sein b'libeinu bina lahavin ulahaskel, if you get a chance to say Uvalot Tzion in the words L'man lo niga larik v'lo neile labahala, those are considered the most opportune times, but it's not relegated to any specific juncture. It's a never-ending process. And even if your child is 10, 15, 20, married, grandchildren, your job has not ended. The kid needs tefillah. He could be 70 years old. The kid still needs your tefillah. One last story. They came to the Stipler. They came to the Stipler for advice in raising children. Stipler says there's no advice. All there is tefillah. You see my little Chayimol? I daven every day that Chayimol should be a Yorei Shamayim. Chayimol was already a grandfather, 55 years old, one of the Gedolei Hadar. So we're all mispalel that the Rebbe Shem should give us the wisdom to deal with our children properly and with chachma. And techniques are important and strategy is important. And I'm not undermining it, and maybe on a different occasion, but the bottom line is the most important ingredient is siyata d'shmaya, and there's no siyata d'shmaya without tefillah. So we hope Hashem gives us the wisdom to realize how much we need to be mispalel, and He gives us the chizuk to be mispalel in the correct way. And we are mispalel, Rebbe Shem should be makabel all of our tefillahs. Please accept my humble bracha. Everyone here should have tremendous nachas from all of your families, from all of your children and grandchildren, and those awaiting families in Mirz Hashem. Rebbe Shem should be mashpi on you. Shefa bracha v'hatzlacha. Yimalei Hashem kol mishas libchem l'toiva. Thank you so much for listening. Bracha v'hatzlacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.